Okay, welcome back. And this video is going to be about how to set the DX7 up as a trainer to have it be the master and a different radio to be the buddy box. So in this case, the DX7 is going to be a master, and I have a DX6i actually to be the buddy box. Okay. So you've seen in the previous video that I've used switch H, assigned it to the aux2 channel, and gave it a warning to let me know if this is in the wrong place. So in this video, I'm going to show you the rationale behind how to set up the trainer, because there's many ways to do it, and why I like to do it a certain way. So I'll be right back and get you a close-up of the radio and what's going to happen. Thank you. Okay, so here we are looking at the main screen of the Avistar Elite on the DX7 radio, and we're about to show you how to set up this as the master as a trainer box. And so I'm going to go click the roll around, let's go down to the system setting, go through the warning, and you've already seen me do the channel assignments. We don't really need the trim setup, and the model utilities are all default. We don't need to do anything with those. Warnings you've already seen. Telemetry I'll do in a little bit. So now I'm going to come down here and do the trainer functions. Okay, I like the wireless trainer. It works well, and so we're going to use wireless trainer here. So instead of inhibit, you have two choices. You have programmable master and pilot link master. So make sure you understand what programmable master is. Okay, it's not that the master is programmable, but the word programmable refers to the buddy box. So it's a buddy box program. The buddy box is programmable, and this is the master. So whereas the pilot link master means the buddy box is dumb, not smart at all, that can't be programmed. I prefer to use the programmable master, because then all of the settings and dual rates and trim and all that are within the buddy box, and so the student and the instructor can have different settings for dual rates and trim and all that, and it makes it easier to train, because it lets the student trim the aircraft, fly whatever low rates he wants, and so forth. So I like to use programmable master, obviously, when the buddy box is programmable. Okay, so as I said, the buddy box is going to be a DX6i, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay, and so here you get to say what the student gets in terms of channels. I want the student to get all the channels, including flaps. aux2 is the only one they don't get, because it's the buddy box is 6-channel and they don't need it. And now the switch, instead of I'm going to flip switch H, and so it picks up switch H. And then master override active, I don't like to use. What happens with master override active is if you move a stick or a throttle or anything, then you immediately assume control of the aircraft. I don't like to do that. I'd rather that master override be inhibit, so that I can preset as an instructor, if the student is taken off, a lot of times I'll have this in idle, because if he messes the takeoff off, I want to flip the switch and land the aircraft immediately, or if he's veering off the runway as he's taxiing out or starting his takeoff roll, I want this to be an idle. By the same token, if he's coming down final, I may have this up to 100%, while he's got his at idle, so that if I flip the switch, I immediately have the power I need. And so I'll be moving this throttle around while the student is flying, and if I move that and this master override is active, then I just assume control of the airplane, and I just soon not do that. So that's what master override inhibit means. So the programmable master is the way I like to do it, and I'll show you the programming in the DX6i in a second. Excuse me. And the other thing we'll do here is the bind button. Okay, I'll show you that in a minute too. And this will allow you to bind this radio to the slave or the buddy box. So let me stop a second, get the buddy box, and I'll show you what's going on the buddy box. Okay, so here's my DX6i. It is a programmable computer kind of radio versus, say, a DX5 or DX4 that doesn't have a display screen down here. And so I've already run through the programming because you don't need to learn how to program DX6i at this point. I'm going to turn this on, and it says Buddy Avistar. Okay, you don't get very many letters out there, but that's what Bud Avist means, is Buddy Box Avistar. So it's been programmed, and you can go. I can step through the program quickly. For example, DR and Expo, I've only set 70 and 85 because there's only a 2-channel switch for the DR and Expo, so the student won't get the 100%, but a student doesn't need 100% at this point when they're first starting out. Okay, travel adjust. I've done the endpoint adjustment for the throttle. And sub trims, we didn't have any. Flaps I have set the same as the flap system in the excuse me, DX7. And so in the setup list, the only thing here is the reverse, and I have matched the reverses to what's on the DX7. The DR combo allows you to select a switch for the DR, and I use this elevator DR switch here for that purpose, and the timer, and so there's not much to setting up a DX6i, but you can all the essential stuff that you need is there. So what I'm going to do next is show you how to bind this radio to that to the DX7 radio, and I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, the next step in setting up the training is to have the DX7 and the DX6i bound together. Now note, two completely different technologies. DSM, DSMX, wireless, not wireless in terms of buddy box. So what's going on here? Well, the DX7 has a receiver in it, okay? And what you're doing is binding the receiver in the DX7 to the DX6i. So the DX6i thinks it's talking to a receiver in an airplane, and that's all. That's what it normally does. So this thing thinks that it's talking to a receiver in an airplane, but that receiver is actually in the DX7, and the DX7 takes the input and feeds it onto the airplane, because the DX7 is bound to the airplane. So this is going to be bound to this, and the DX7 is going to be bound to the airplane. And after this is bound, I'll give you a demonstration of how it actually works on the airplane. Okay, so how do you do it? First thing, turn on the radio for the DX7. Leave this one off. This is still on the model that you want, and you need to make sure that you're on the right model before you do the binding. Okay, so I'm going to go down and into system setup. You've seen me do this before. Come down to trainer, and then from the wireless trainer menu, I'm going to go down one click where it says bind. Okay, so now this one is ready to send out the bind signal to this one. I'm going to click the bind button. Then I'm going to take this away, get it at least 3 feet away, so I'll be off camera for a minute. Turn it on while I hold this, which is the bind switch, and then you'll hear what happens. So here we go. So binding here, turn the DX6i on while it's got the bind button.
Bind failed.
Give it a minute.
Bind complete.
Bind complete. I'm not sure why it does that, but it works. It says bind failed, and then thinks about it a minute and says, oh, there he is, bind complete. So now these two are bound together. Now, so I'm going to turn them both off. Now that this one is bound to this one said bind complete, and this one just said I bound to something. And so I'm going to get the airplane out with and show you that it's actually bound together, and we're ready to go. So be right back. Hold on. Okay, so here we're sitting with the DX7 radio and the buddy box and the airplane. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn on the DX7 radio, let it warm up. Okay, and then I'm going to turn on the DX6i, let it warm up, and I'm going to flip the switch to make sure I don't get a warning. Okay, and I don't. Actually, I didn't set up that warning, but that's okay. We'll go back to the setup because there's one more setup to do. So now I'm going to turn on the radio. Okay, and notice that I've got the control by the DX7. I'll even work the flaps and flaps up. Okay, I'm going to flip the trainer switch, and not much happens, but you can see that the trainer is now working. Elevator works, rudder works, throttle works, I hear it. I'm going to put the flaps down. Notice in the DX6i there is no delay. It's just older technology, but the flaps will work, go all the way down and all the way up. There's just a 2-position switch, that's all it has. So, but the flaps do work. Okay, so control is being transferred between the DX6i and the buddy box. I mean the buddy box and the master. DX7 being the master, DX6i being the buddy box. Okay, I'll be right back because I want to show you another couple of settings that need to take place to make sure this is complete. Be right back. Okay, there's one more important aspect, very important aspect of having a trainer in as the DX7 as a trainer master, is when you flip that H switch, it gives you a warning, but it's only visual if the buddy box isn't there. So I want that to be a verbal warning, and there's a special way to do that. So I'm going to go into System Setup, go down to Trainer, and then there's a thing here called Trainer Alerts. Okay, and the Trainer Alerts allow you to have either instructor has control, student has control, or no student signal. What do you want it to say? Well, if it's the instructor and you want a voice, then you come down, scrolling way down here, and here we are. So there's the 3 things. Student has control, instructor has control, and no student signal. So the first one I want is instructor has control. Then you want the same thing that says student has control. Okay, there's student has control. So instructor has control, student has control, no signal. Then we're going to come down here and say and it's right down here toward the end, no student signal. Okay, so now if I flip the switch,
Student has control. Instructor has control.
okay, All right. Now, if I say,
Student has control. No student signal.
okay, when it's transmitting, remember it was in,
Student signal. Instructor has control.
when it's not transmitting, in other words, this light isn't on, when we were in the setup mode, it didn't give the complete signal. So
Student has control. No student signal.
now I'm going to turn this on.
Student signal. Student has control.
Now it says student has control. It found the DX6i. I just turned it on, okay, and it found the DX6i, and now,
Instructor has control. Student has control.
and so the student will actually hear that, and which is good, and so now you have a verbal confirmation when you switch between instructor and student. That's very nice, believe me. Okay, so that's it for instructor setup. We've got the two things bound together, and we've got the verbal warnings, and we got everything set. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for the next videos.